presentation on testing of renewable energy systems. Again, my pleasant welcome to every one of you for this session on renewable energy systems testing. Let us understand that renewable energy has become the order of the day. We have been using energy from fossil fuels for quite long. We understood that fossil fuels are not going to last long. Even if fossil fuels are likely to last long, it is not going to be a wise decision for us to use this energy on two accounts. The systems based on fossil energy has limited efficiency. I would say cost-effective efficiency, limited cost-effective efficiency. Second one, they are highly polluting, putting the environment at danger, making sustainable development impossible. Hence, we have been very seriously thinking for various options. Thereby, renewable energy systems have been identified, invented, tested, and we started using. Over a period of time, we are very concerned about the reliability of renewable energy systems. Thereby, systematic methods have been developed for testing it to improve its reliability as well as durability. This presentation is going to focus on various testing methods and their reliability as well as some of their applications. We all know renewable energy is the energy produced from different sources that will last forever or for a very long period. The major examples include biomass energy, solar energy, wind energy, geothermal, and hydropower. Among them, biomass is the most important one, and it is one of the prominent renewable energy which we have been using from earlier days. Being an agricultural country, we have a lot of agricultural residues, forest residues, which can be put into better use. This biomass can be regenerated generation after generation so that we can continue to use without any depletion. It only requires a judicious planning and a sustained use in such a way that biomass is generated at the same rate at which it is being consumed, which is quite possible. This biomass is available in different forms. It is available in the form of wooden chips, wood pieces, wood powder, agricultural fibers and straws, briquettes, and so on. Whatever may be the form, they are very convenient to use so that a sustainable environment could be maintained. We all know biomass is the output of photosynthetic process. The material which is generated by photosynthesis could be combusted to release thermal energy. This thermal energy can be used for various forms of useful energies. It could be used for heating, it could be used for drying, it can be used for software applications, it can also be used for generating electricity for our purposes. When it comes to utilization of biomass, there are two routes for biomass to be used. One is known as combustion, the other one is gasification. Let us recall, any fuel is basically an hydrocarbon. An hydrocarbon fuel, if it is mixed with sufficient quantity of oxidizer and burnt completely so that the thermal energy is released, it is called combustion. And hence, combustion is a process of complete chemical reaction of fuel with an oxidizer to release the energy available in the fuel. It is released in the form of thermal energy. So this thermal energy can be used either in furnaces or in kilns. Or this thermal energy can be used for converting liquid into vapor in steam generator. Then the steam generator can be used either for industrial processing or for generating shaft power or the combination of these two. Any fuel requires certain quantity of oxidizer for its complete oxidation, what is known as combustion. Instead, if we supply the fuel with limited quantity of oxidizer, it is known as gasification. Basically, it is suggested that about 30% of oxidizer alone is supplied instead of 100% of oxidizer in order to convert solid fuel into a combustible gas. This combustible gas can be further be burned in a combustion chamber so that energy could be further released. Gasification is a method of partial combustion where solid fuel is converted into a combustible gas. There is a good amount of convenience for converting solid fuel into a gaseous fuel because the moment it becomes gaseous fuel, it can be conveniently used even in internal combustion engines, and hence generating short power would become much easier. When it comes to gasification, there are different routes by which solid fuel can be converted into gaseous fuel. When a solid biomass fuel is heated in the absence of air or in the absence of any oxidizer, it is said to be pyrolysis. It leads to generation of medium energy gas, and sometimes we can even condense this gas and partly make into a pyrolysis oil. This will also produce a char, which is a concentrated carbon, which could be used for some other applications as well. So, thermal degradation of solid biomass fuel with the help of heat in the absence of oxygen or any other oxidizer is said to be pyrolysis. If the same biomass is gasified with air as medium, then it is said to be air gasification. If we take usually a typical biomass, for 1 kg of biomass we need about 6 kg of air. Instead of 6 kg of air, if we supply only 2 kg of air, the solid fuel could be converted into a gaseous fuel known as producer gas. Basically, it is a low energy gas and it could be used for thermal applications. If the same biomass is partially oxidized with oxygen as an oxidizer, then this is said to be oxygen gasification. It is capable of resulting in medium energy gas. Instead of oxygen, hydrogen can also be used for oxidizing biomass. The basic idea is to supply limited quantity of oxidizer, which can be either air or oxygen or hydrogen. Is the fuel into combustible gas, which can be either used for thermal application or for short power application. As we said earlier, fuel is basically an hydrocarbon in nature, and these fuels are put to two different types of tests to understand their suitability for a given application. One is said to be a proximate test, the other one is said to be an ultimate test. Under proximate test, the fuel is understood to be a composition of moisture, volatile matter, fixed carbon, and incombustibles. So, from the proximate test, one can understand the percentage of moisture in the fuel, volatile matter, fixed carbon, and incombustibles. Basically, these incombustibles are ash. If it is a raw biomass, there could be large amount of moisture. If the moisture is present in the fuel in large quantity, then it should be dried before use. It is very difficult to use a fuel with large amount of moisture. Hence, drying becomes necessary. Lower the moisture, better the performance of the fuel. If the moisture present is considerably high, good amount of heat released in the combustion is used for drying the moisture itself, and hence the availability of useful energy will be relatively less. Volatile matter is basically a solid part of the fuel that can be converted into gaseous part with relatively low temperature, something like 150 degrees centigrade. So take any solid fuel, heat up the solid fuel up to 105 degrees centigrade. Whatever is released is said to be moisture. Moisture gets released around 100 degrees centigrade. If we heat up beyond 100 degrees centigrade, then volatile starts releasing. These are the easily evaporatable solid part of solid fuel. If the volatile matter is high, such a fuel can be easily Volatiles are the matter that gets released and then it starts burning. Any fuel that doesn't contain enough amount of volatile is likely to be, it is going to be unlikely to be easily ignited. For example, we have rice straw. In local language, we call it as Vaikol. This rice straw contains more than 60% volatile matter, sometimes even more than 80%. That is the reason it's very easy to ignite haystack, rice straw bunch. The moment we preheat rice straw, it gives out combustible gases easily. It mixes with air and it starts burning. But if you take anthracite fuel, the amount of rice straw is even less than 1% in that. So igniting anthracite coal is extremely difficult. That's the reason. When anthracite coal is used, initially they use oil and ignite the furnace and bring the furnace to a certain temperature. That anthracite is crushed and pumped into so that it can easily catch fire. That component is fixed carbon. Fixed carbon is the carbon that remains relatively even at high temperature, and it shows the quality of fuel. Higher the carbon percentage, it's a good fuel. Any portion of solid fuel that cannot burn even under high temperature condition is said to be ash or incombustible. It should be as low as possible. So from the proximate test, one can understand the proportion of moisture, volatile matter, fixed carbon and incombustible present in the fuel. The next important test for biomass, or for that matter any solid fuel, is the ultimate test. Ultimate test is an elemental test meant for identifying the percentage of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur present by mass. When a kg of fuel is burned, the quantity of heat released is said to be heating value. When the fuel is burned, fuel becomes products. Fuel contains hydrogen and carbon mainly. Carbon becomes carbon dioxide, hydrogen becomes water. In the product, if water remains as water, the amount of heat released during this process is said to be higher heating value. However, we all know water cannot remain as water in such a high temperature atmosphere. Thereby, water evaporates to become vapor. Part of heat released during combustion is used for evaporating water into vapor. Thereby, the net amount of energy that is available for further usage is said to be lower rating value. This table gives you the higher rating value of some of the common biomass fuels, starting from peach wood, yellow pine, mango wood, and so on. You could see in terms of kilojoule per kg, it is the order of about 20 kilojoule per kg. Let's understand that hydrocarbon fuel, basically like petrol and diesel, have an heating value of about higher heating value of about 48 megajoule per kg. But biomass fuel has about 20 megajoule per kg. It is even less than 50% of petroleum fuels. There is a major limitation of biomass fuel. However, they are environmentally friendly, suitable for sustainable development, and they are renewable in nature. And if you start using biomass over a period of time, we can become self-reliant. We don't have to depend on other countries for import of large amount of petroleum fuels. So these are the testing equipments used for various purposes. Thermogravimetric analyzer is used for conducting thermogravimetric analysis. It measures the variation of mass of the sample over time as the temperature changes. It can be used for predicting physical phenomena such as phase transitions, absorption, adsorption, and desorption. Chemical phenomena, chemisorptions, thermal desorption, and solid gas reactions, that is oxidation and reduction. This is one of the important tests that is conducted with solid fuel to understand their behavior during combustion and gasification. When we conduct TG analysis, we are plotting the variation of mass, that is weight, with respect to various temperatures. Thereby we will know what is the minimum and maximum temperature required for converting this fuel into useful product. Moreover, it can also show the rate at which it can disintegrate. Thereby, we can plan the size of the combustion chamber, shape of the combustion chamber, and the requirement of primary air, secondary air, and so on. In the elements present in the fuel and their quantity, basically fuels are analyzed for the presence of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and incombustibles. The quantum of heat released during the combustion of unit quantity of fuel is said to be heating value. Calorimeter is used for that purpose. Now there is available in order to calculate the heating value of the fuel. Even before going for real testing, heating value is expressed in terms of the mass percentage of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, ash, sulfur, and nitrogen. So based on the element analysis, one can easily predict the calorific value or the heating value of biomass fuels and so on. When these fuels are used in gasifier or combustor, the rate of burning, combustibility, flammability limit, these kind of parameters have to be established, for which we need a complete combustion or gasification test setup. So these are all basically a chemical reactor fitted with suitable sensors so that it can be tested in a real reactor to understand their combustion phenomena. When combustion tests are conducted, one can understand the combustion and burnout behavior of solid fuels, composition of gaseous products from the fuel during biomass gasification and combustion, the quantum of energy or heat released, the behavior of ash forming compounds, and the first indications concerning ash melting behavior. In fact, behavior of the ash is one of the important parameters. If the ash is not dealt properly, probably it may lead to even complete corrosion of a reactor, leading to the premature failure of the system. Generally, combustion systems are designed for about 15 years of operation, in some cases up to 25 years of operation. And if the ash is not properly handled in the combustion chamber, then the life of the system may undergo a drastic reduction. Probably it may become even 1/10 of its life. The combustion chamber, which is meant for 10 years of life, may go terribly bad within a year. So there are many